All right, Shalom. First and foremost, giving all praise to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, Hashem, Rahapadash, with the Spirit to do this lesson. Shalom to the men of the Lord, prophesying, preaching, and teaching on the highways and byways in sincerity and in truth. Shalom, Barakatham. And again, peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. And I want to go in a quick lesson here and to talk about, in these latter days, man, faith equaling us getting miraculous and spiritual powers. All right. Now, not every brother's going to get it, but everybody's going to witness miracles. It may not be that you witnessed a miracle of you having said spiritual powers, but Lord willing, all the men that are faithful, diligent in this thing, that we get those things, man. Because there's going to be a 1/3 remnant of the elect that going to be woken up at the very last second that the Most High is going to have mercy on, and it could very well be that those guys are the ones that don't see uh, spiritual power. But hey, it's all up to the spirit. But we know that these things are written, and one of the key things that you need for that to happen is is basically centered around faith, man. Ultimately, that's what the whole thing is about. But specifically on the spiritual power front, faith is going to be extremely important. Okay, and I wanted to bring that out first, real quick, here in Matthew. This is Matthew the 17th chapter, and this is basically Yahweh Shai rebuking, the disciples for lacking faith to cast out a demon. So I'll start at Matthew 17:17. It says, "Then Yahweh Shai answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him hither to me." And he's talking about the demonic possessed guy. All right, because they saw it and they bugged out. Basically, they saw a demon, and even though they saw the miracle of Yahweh Shai being there with them, supping with them, breaking down wisdom, the importance of faith, they still, when it came down to it, they didn't have it. So they got rebuked. Okay, and it says, and Yahweh Shai rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. So it's lucky that was a child. Um, it says, then came the disciples to Yahweh Shai apart and said, why could not we cast him out? And then Yahweh Shai, it says, and Yahweh Shai said unto them, because of your unbelief. That's the main point. All right. So you have to truly believe in these things, and the men who believe in this thing, those are going to be the men that are speaking about this the most. Most of you other camps, y'all don't talk about spiritual powers very often. Y'all don't meditate on the idea of it. All right. We know you're not. We know it's not part of your discussion. Y'all rather talk about uh, uh, hip hop culture and other vain bullshit. You know, but we have our minds fixated on that because we know because we know that that's part of our salvation, number one, and our mind is fixated on vengeance because that's the spirit that the Most High is in. All right, he's in the mood of vengeance for his people. Okay, and if you're not in that mood, then you're not in the spirit of Yahweh Shai, of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. All right, because that's what's getting ready to happen, man. All right. So we're in that spirit because and spiritual powers are going to have a lot to do with it. Why? Because this guy has been built up so much. The Most High gave him such a huge sword that's what we're going to need to get us out of the situation that we're in. We're going to need it. All right. Particular situations, man, it's going to be nothing short of a miracle to get out of it. Now, some of it could be an angel intervening on your behalf. Maybe not a spiritual power per se, but it's gonna take a miracle, man, regardless. And some brothers are just gonna be raised up to do things like our forefathers did in the ancient days. All right. Let me finish this verse. It says, "And Yahweh Shai said unto them, because of your unbelief, for verily I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. So Yahweh Shai is basically saying the only reason you can't look at a mountain and move it, all right, with your mind, through your spirit, is because of your faith. So your power, especially in this world, especially in the time that we're getting ready to go into, is only going to be limited by the faith that you have. All right, and you got to realize these men saw how. You have to realize how difficult it is to have that faith, because the brothers that have that faith, that's a blessing, man. Because we saw the miracles of Yahweh Shai, the disciples did, and it was still a difficult thing. When you go to Peter walking out on the water, he saw Yahweh Shai do it with his own eyes, and he still had a hard time. All right, so this isn't an easy thing, and ultimately, this faith is a gift. Now it said the scriptures say faith is freely given, but ultimately it's a gift. So you do have to be of that elect number, man. Lord willing, I'm of that number. Lord willing, the men that are diligent in this thing, pushing the true doctrine, are of that number as well. So that's the first thing, man. Is faith. All right, and who is it gonna come to? That's the second thing, right? Because ain't no just nigga off the street can just have faith that he could teleport and do some other bullshit, but he has no root in Yahweh Shai. No, man. Ultimately the next step is you have to be of the house of David, which is symbolic of the elect. All right, when you read it throughout the scriptures. All right, I'm gonna go to uh Zechariah 12:7. All right, it says the Lord Yahweh also shall save the tents of Judah first. All right, why Judah? Because Judah is the lead tribe, and that's where the house of David resides through the Spirit. All right, it's through that lineage that the order of Melchizedek is set up, because we know Yahweh Shai was born through that lineage, and we know that Yahweh Shai is Melchizedek. All right, it's not the Levites. The Levites have a beautiful and important role. All right, but the new order has been established, man, through Yahweh Shai. Okay, and the house of Judah here in this context is synonymous with the house, of David, which represents all of the elect, which are going to be from each tribe. When you read Revelation 7, all right, the 144,000 are part of that number. Okay. Um, it said, and you're going to read that the mighty men of David back in the day, they all weren't of the tribe of Judah. Okay. There was just a certain spirit about them that they were chosen, man, from different tribes, from different parts of Israel. Okay. So, the house of David, the main tribe is Judah, but, through the spirit, it's ultimately, man, the ones of Israel who have the strongest amount of faith, who are with it, basically. All right. It says, again, Zechariah 12:7, the Lord Yahweh shall save the house of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. All right. So it says that the glory of the house of David, all right, and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. All right. And so there were some of those inhabitants, the glory of those inhabitants of Jerusalem, man, that were a part of people not going against the house of Judah, which represents the house of David, you know, and subsequently that's the order of Melchizedek, because you had a bunch of guys in the New Testament era when Yahushua came on the scene. They weren't with the order of Melchizedek. They were all about the Levite lineage and the Levite priesthood, and had lacked faith, you know, that the Messiah was supposed to come, even though it was prophesied to come, even though it was broken down to them. Yahushua, he was nice in the law and the scriptures, right? He was perfect, all right. And there's no way this wasn't broken down to them, but they still lack faith. Even when they saw him doing miracles, what did they do? They accused him of having demonic powers, of casting out demons through Beelzebub. All of these slanderous things, and those guys, you guys are back today, all right. And your lack of faith it's about to get exposed in a major way, even though we already see it, but everybody's gonna see it, all right. And ultimately, it's gonna be to your destruction. You know, this is verse 8. It says, "In that day shall the Lord Yahweh defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David." So you have to be in the spirit of David, man. That's the house of David. Those men that are in that spirit, when those men have that same faith that Yahweh was talking about in Matthew 17, then that's when those spiritual powers are gonna manifest, man. Let's read on. It says, "And he that is feeble among those days, he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as the Most High, as the angel of the Lord Yahweh before them." Okay, and when it says you're going to be as David, you got to understand that David was slaying tens of thousands of people. He had spiritual power back in the day. All right, because the Most High was with him that much. The Most High loved him that much. He used him, Um, and it says, and the men that followed David got spiritual powers. All right. So everybody that was with the program, they got it, man. All right. And we're going to read that real quick. It says, "And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem." All right. And how are those nations going to be destroyed in these latter days? It's going to be through these men, that remnant. We're going to run through these other nations, man. Utterly split these niggas open for all the wickedness that they've done, the slavery, the buying and selling of our people, the exploitation, the torture, the mockery, even. All right, all of that's going to be paid back to you, heathen. At least twofold. Okay, and it's going to come by the means of that remnant that the Most High is going to bless. All right, now let's get part of David's men here. This is First Chronicles 11:10. It says David's mighty men. It says these also are the chief of the mighty men whom David had, who strengthened themselves with him in his kingdom. All right. So in other words, they made the right call when the whole division was going on between King Saul and King David, and the Most High took the spirit away from Saul. All right. And Samuel basically said, we've given the crown to another. The men that followed David and had the faith to follow David, even though Saul was technically still king. Those men that had the faith to follow the word of the prophets, those are the men that strengthened themselves with David, right? And what happened when they strengthened themselves with David? They got blessed with spiritual power. Okay, it says, "Who strengthened themselves with him in his kingdom and with all Israel to make him king, and according to the word of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai concerning Israel." And this is the number of the mighty men whom David had: Jeshobeam and Hachmonite, the chief of the captains. He lifted up his spear against 300 slain by him at once. So he took a spear, all right, and he ran through them, man. It reminds me of that scene of let me get it real quick. That scene of Thor when he enters in Wakanda. Trying not to get this copyright struck, but if it'll load, I'd be having a hard time. I'm gonna skip to it because I don't want to get it copyrighted. I just want to get to the main point. Look, he beams down. All right. Look, he's got one weapon in his hand against all of these enemies. Boom. Instantly. Instantly. And I'm gonna close that, pause that for the sake of not one that getting struck with copyright or whatever. YouTube be on their bullshit, but you see it, man. He took out hundreds with one strike. All right, and y'all gotta believe, have the faith that we're gonna be on that level, man, and greater. Esau's writing these things because these have roots in the scriptures, and he knows ultimately that power is coming. Okay, all right. It says he lifted up his spear against 300, slain by him at one time. It says, and after him was Eleazar the son of Dodo, the Ahohite, if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, Shalakia, who was one of the three mighties. Okay, he was with David at Pasdamim, and there was Philistines that were gathered together to battle. There was a parcel of ground full of barley, and the people fled from before the Philistines, and they set themselves in the midst of that parcel and delivered it and slew the Philistines, and the Lord Jehovah saved them by a great deliverance. All right, and you got to realize these Philistines, they were very tall individuals, man. Just going to battle with them alone took a special degree of strength. Basically a miracle to fight these guys. All right. With conventional weapons, you had to be a mighty man. Okay. All right. Now skip on down. Uh, Let me see. In the three break. See. Yeah, here's another one. And Abishai, the brother of Joab, he was the chief of three. For lifting up his spear against 300, he slew them and had a name among the three. So he's another one. So that's how we were running through these Philistines, man. They were on the level of Avengers. It says of the three, he was more honorable than the two, for he was their captain. Howbeit, he attained not to the first three. All right. So this is Benaniah, the son of Jehoiada, and you read about him as well in the tale of Solomon. That's who Solomon was going around putting hits on people, man, for trying to be treasonous to the throne. All right, I believe it was Absalom, or if I'm not mistaken, that tried to usurp the throne from him. He says the son of a valiant man of Kabzeel, who had done many acts, who slew two lion-like men of Moab. All right, so Moab had these two uh brolic like men. All right, and they had to be huge for it to be of note. Okay, it says also he went down and slew a lion in a pit in a snowy day. So he also just slew a lion, man, in the snow. All right, it says, and he slew an Egyptian, a man of great stature, 5 cubits high, and 5 cubits is like I was saying earlier with those Philistines, which they come, they're of the same lineage of people, essentially, a version of them. That's 5 cubits is 7.5 feet tall, man. That would be a record height in the NBA. I think that might be the record in the NBA as far as height is 7'5" or something like that. This guy would be taller than Shaq. All right. Imagine if Shaq knew how to throw hands, which we know Shaq can't fight. But imagine that guy was a trained warrior that size, man. Okay. It says, in the Egyptian's hand was a spear like in a weaver's beam, and he went down to him with the staff and plucked the spear out of the Egyptian's hand. All right. So he was nice with his hands, man. He just plucked it out of his hand and slew him with his own spear. That man, look, that takes some skill, man, and confidence and faith. Okay, it says, behold, he was honorable among the 30, but attained not to the first three. And David set him over his guard. All right, so that's how you know that the men that was in the house of David, that was with David, those spirits, man. All right, they were blessed. They were lifted up, and one of the major blessings was getting spiritual powers, and you can look and see all of the rest of the valiant men. All right, they were from all over, man. The Hararite, the Pelonite, the Tekoite, the Anthahite. Now, most of these names are not actual tribes, but they're most likely places where they dwelled. So you can reasonably assume that these men were not all the house of Judah, okay? But they had an allegiance to King David, all right? And King David was the most popular king by far, man. Once Saul was out of there, all right, people love David, man. They absolutely love David. So that just shows you a lot of the people that weren't with him a lot of them just feared Saul. Um, and all the tribes, are in there, and I believe through the spirit that these men are back through that 144,000, somewhere today on the earth when you read Revelation 7 and 5, okay? And you got to realize that thing is coming, all right? Another example here. This is Judges 15. It's just talking about Samson, all right? The 14th verse, it says, and when he came up to Lehi, the Philistines shouted against him, and the spirit of the Lord Jehovah came mightily upon him. All right? So the spirit hit him. All right? So y'all can't be in the spirit like, oh, I'm frail, oh, I can't run that fast. I can only lift this much and this and that. Hey, man, you just need to have faith, man. You doing what you're supposed to do. You have faith in this thing. The spirit is going to hit us to give us what we need, just like it hit Samson here. It says, and the spirit of the Lord Jehovah came mightily upon him, and the cords that were upon his arms became as flax that was burnt with fire. So Samson was a brolic dude, and the restraints they had on him, they basically became like flax. Now flax is basically like a cloth, like a linen, all right, that was burned with fire. So he was glowing, man. He had energy coming off of him, all right. It says the flax that was burnt with fire. He was likely looking like Thor was, man. It says, and his bands loose from off his hands. So you see Goku or Vegeta, they power up and they break out of a rock or something like that. They get buried in rubble, and then they just power up, and all the rocks fly off of them. That's how Samson was, man. That was a fearful sight, man. Because this guy, he had long hair. He was a Nazarite. He had long hair, a long beard. This is the guy who never cut his hair ever. All right, and man, that had to be a sight. It says, verse 15, and he found a new jawbone of an ass, and put forth his hand, and took it, and slew 1,000 men therewith. Man, now how else can you do that if there's not spiritual power with you, man? All right, and the Most High raised us up in the days of Judges. Why? Because He promised us that we would have the land of the Canaanites, right? And then as long as we did what we were supposed to do, He would protect us, man. And He did this over and over and over again, man. He lifted up judges. Joshua was one of the first judges after Moses. All right. All right. And he demonstrated these things from Samson all the way through all the way up to David, man. All right. It says, and Samson said, with the jawbone of an ass, heaps upon heaps. With the jawbone of an ass have I slain 1,000 men. All right. Now, a jawbone is very frail, man. You could snap somebody's bone easily. Okay. And he slew 1,000 men with it. That means the Most High not only put the spiritual power on him, but even in the weapon that he was wielding. All right. You could take a average branch off the ground and it could be turned into Thor's weapon that we just saw, with that spiritual power, man. All right. It says, and it came to pass when he had made an end of speaking that he cast away the jawbone out of his hand and called that place Ramath Eli. All right. All right. So that's another powerful example of those spiritual powers. Okay. And brothers just gotta believe on that. Okay. So last example, there's plenty of examples of how we're going to be raised up, man, with just the faith that I'm harping on. Micah 5:8, it says, "And the remnant of Jacob," this is talking about the remnant, all right, not you 2/3 niggas uh, that are happy being here in Egypt, or you'll see a chariot and just scoff at it or don't care, or you'll see the angels, you'll call by name. Yahweh Shah could come down himself and tell you you're Israelite and this and that, and you still won't have any faith. All right, that's a 2/3 nigga that you can't do anything with, and ultimately y'all just have to die. All right, y'all are reserved for judgment. Anyway, and he says, "And the remnant of Jacob, all right, the elect, shall be among the Gentiles in the midst of many people, as a lion among the beasts of the forest." All right, now can anything really fuck with a lion? No, absolutely not, man. You know, very few animals are on that level. Now you could say a bear or something like that, but we see in the context that this is in the forest. It says, "As a young lion among the flocks of sheep." All right, so you get the comparison here. All right, it says, "In the midst of many people, as a lion among the beasts of the forest, as a young lion among the flocks of sheep, who if he go through, both tread it down and tear it in pieces, and none can deliver." So that's how we're gonna be, man. Nobody's gonna be able to fuck with us, man. We're gonna walk into a town, fly into a town, and and it's gonna be like a lion amongst a bunch of sheep. That's how much powerful that we're gonna. That's how much more powerful we're gonna be. Even these so-called mighty men, you niggas that are in the gym every day, which there's nothing wrong with going to the gym, but you put all your faith in being, big and strong and athletic, and you have no faith. You're not rooted in Yahweh Shai, or worse, you're just not an Israelite. All right, you guys are gonna die. All right, and you're gonna go out like women. All right, it says, "Thine hand shall be lifted up upon thine adversaries, and all thine enemies shall be cut off." All right, so why is this important? Because in the latter days, there's going to be men that the Most High raises up to deal with the wicked of this place, man. The scriptures speak about Esau trying to run to the clefts of the rocks, and you read Amos 9 and 8, or I believe it's Revelation 16 or 17. I believe it's the end of chapter 16, or maybe 15. Salakia, about Esau basically trying to hide, man. He said, "Let the rocks fall on us that we may hide from the wrath of the Lamb." All right, and all these bunkers going in outer space, underwater, underground. None of that's gonna come to anything, because the Most High. Why? Because part of part of the reason we're getting the spiritual powers, before the ultimate deliverance is to hunt you devils out, man. Hunt you devils down. All right. Now this is Jeremiah 16:16. "Behold, I will send for many fishers, saith the Lord Yahweh, and shall fish them." All right, and those are the prophets, the men of the Lord that are prophesying. All right, that are going in and week out, you know, preaching the word, that the elect may hear it, that their hearts may turn back to the Most High, pursuant to Ezekiel 37, that Israel will wake up, that remnant, so we can come back and be delivered. All right, it says, "They shall fish them, and after will I send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain, all right, and from every hill, and out of the holes of the rocks." All right, so those hunters, how in the world are we gonna hunt? You can't. First of all, man, just one mountain. You know, you need spiritual powers to even scout a mountain. you know, if we're doing all of this, we're trying to find everybody and every that would take forever, man. But we're gonna know exactly where you are. All right, and we know Esau's gonna have security down there. He's gonna have them toys, that sword. So it ain't gonna just be a bunch of helpless Edomites down there. No, we gonna have to go in there, handle up on y'all, and drag you out of there for slavery. All right, and it says from every hill. All right. So think about every hill, every mountain in America. All right. Every mountain in South America, Australia, wherever country y'all try to flee to, Iceland. I know y'all gonna try to go to Iceland and all of some of these remote places and these remote islands and whatnot. He says from every hill we're gonna find you. All right. That requires spiritual powers, spiritual insight. All right. And we're gonna hunt you. Okay. It says, "From mine eyes are upon all their ways; they are not hid from my face." It says, "Neither is their iniquity hid from mine eyes." So the angels already know, man. They already see. They're like, "Yeah, that mountain right there there's some Edomites in there." All right. Lord willing, I be of that number. I get that power, man. I'm gonna go in there gladly and drag you devils out, man. All right, gladly. So, at the end of the day, that's the point, you know. That's why we're getting those spiritual powers, because Israel is to be the standard, the rulers, all right? And you can't be the standard and rulers without being above the other nations, physically, spiritually, mentally, all right? We're not going to even be comparable to these other nations, all right? Why? Because we were set to rule over them, all right? And ultimately, the key thing, man, is faith. If you don't have faith, then you're gonna leave room for doubt to creep in, and then you're gonna be swept up, in the second death. All right, and your glory is gonna be greatly diminished in the kingdom. All right, compared to the men who Salakia, compared to the men who had the faith and did it right the first time. All right, Salakia, one sec. But that's basically it, man. So I'll end it there. Hopefully, our brothers were edified. Call halal Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak Wadash, Wa Abba Babal, Shalom.